Hello, everyone. Alex here. Before we get into this episode, I wanted to clarify that at the point of recording, this episode was recorded 6 months ago. So it was recorded over the summer. Now it's December. And back then, we knew a lot less than we know now because that's what this podcast is about, is regular people having regular conversations and learning. So we're always open to learning and to be corrected because I realize now naming it naming the episode spiritual warfare, it should have been named something different, like our sinful nature, which is, I think, what the bulk of this episode is about and what we are trying to talk about. But because I don't want to try to blame everything on spiritual attacks from the enemy, because more often than not it's our sinful nature that gets us to those places and why we struggle with these things. So like I said, we're willing to learn, and I decided to still release this episode because there's really good pieces of conversation in there that I think have merit and worth listening. But use discernment and always refer back to the words of our Lord, the living God, the word of our Lord Jesus Christ. So with that out of the way, please enjoy the episode. Thank you. All right. Recording 3, 2, 1. Hello there, welcome to the Bread Slice. My name is Alex, I am your host.
My name is Eddie, I am your co-host.
And my name is Anthony, and I am your other co-host.
Today we are talking about, what are we talking about, guys?
We're talking about spiritual warfare, spiritual attacks.
Warfare.
Yeah.
Yes. Like,
I was going to try to say it at the same time he did, but I gave up.
it didn't work. Didn't work
Yes.
out.
We could have harmonized it.
Yeah, so I'm coming down. I'm just getting better from a summer cold. I think it's a thing that you get from Lake Michigan, because I was moving today. I was moving to my new place, and I was looking around on Google Maps and what's around my place, and I see the little icon for hotels right around my place, my apartment, and then I see one on the same street. I'm like, well, there's no hotels there, and I see one and I click it and it says a home. I was like, what? A home?
What is that?
Yeah, and then I look up Street View, and it's a house. It's a regular house in the neighborhood, and it says a home. And then I was driving by it today, and it's a different color, but it's just the house. So I go in there and I leave a review, because you can leave reviews for it. And then I said, very good home, I recommend. And that got me going through a bunch of things about reviews, and it's like, oh, thank you for contributing. You want to review all these other places, and one of them was Cave Point in Door County. And apparently people can review parks. And you would be surprised how many people leave 1-star reviews
Yep.
on parks. It's like, seriously? You're reviewing nature?
The bench wasn't comfy enough.
Yeah, like anywhere from it was too crowded, it was too cold, not enough grass.
You're going to blame the weather for how to rate a park?
Exactly. But one of them said 1 star. Every time I go there, it said 1 star. Last time I went there, I was swimming in Lake Michigan and I got a cold. I came back 2 weeks later after I was better. I swam again and I got another cold. And that got me thinking, Katie was swimming in Lake Michigan because I didn't go swimming there. I was feeling like crap.
Mm-hmm.
And then she got sick a couple days later, and then she got better and I started getting sick. So there's a thing there with the lake colds.
So if you don't want to go into work because you're sick, you should swim in Lake Michigan.
That's right.
Because then you'll get sick and you can call in from work.
It's a regular cold. It'll last like 3 days, and then you get 3 days off.
You get 3 days off.
This
A
is
longer weekend.
this is a foolproof plan right now.
That's right.
You get a nice swim in. And then 3 days off.
That's right.
Sounds good to me.
And with that, transitioning from that stuff, from moving and stuff, I feel like I've been a little bit overwhelmed lately, and a lot of old feelings from when we did this before are kind of surfacing. Not in a way that are threaten me or in a way that they put me off, but in a way that kind of reminds me, oh, this could happen now. As if, like, now you're on your own again, so here's the anxiety that can happen now, or
Right.
you're gonna feel inadequate, or you're going to start fighting, or stuff like that. And I feel like, sometimes those thoughts come out of nowhere, and that's where I want to kind of segue into our topic today, which is spiritual warfare. Do you wanna tell us a little bit what spiritual warfare is, Eddie?
I definitely need to learn a lot more about it. Although I am aware of it now more than I was before. To me, spiritual attack or spiritual warfare, it's when you feel off um, throughout your day. Not even maybe in the morning, maybe halfway through your day, maybe late at night. It's basically not being able to get back into your normal self, right? Like whatever that means. But to me, it's like basically not being able to process things the way you normally would process, and maybe just little things are just bothering you way more than they usually do. And a lot of people might chuck it up to like something bad happened today, and that's what's bothering me, and that's why I'm crabby. And sometimes we might not even notice it. We might think that it's like the normal way to feel until somebody that's that means something to you, they point it out, and they're like, why are you acting this way, why are you being like that? And it might come off as like, what are you talking about? I'm always like this. And then they might look at you like, no, you're not. And then that might magnify it if you don't know what it is. You might even get madder because now your significant other or somebody who you're close to is basically calling you like a crabby pants, crab ass or whatever. And that might even magnify it because you're not aware of what's actually going on. Lately, whenever I do get in those moods, I recognize it right away, and I realize that my spirit is under attack. In other words, to me, what that means, it's the enemy, the devil, is trying to get me to forget all the blessings that God has given me and the blessings that he continues to give me. So he'll do whatever it takes. Whenever he sees that I'm distracted, he'll send out thoughts that might trigger me to be crabby, like as simple as being crabby. But then as soon as my that attack gets a hold of my soul, excuse me, that crabbiness might turn into anger. I could start picking a fight with my significant other, for example. This actually happened to me not too long ago, but maybe last week. My girlfriend and I got in a fight. We started arguing about cause for some reason that night it started with just me being like in a bad mood. Like I had a long day of work, so I felt entitled to being like, I want to be alone. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just worked a long shift, blah blah blah. So then my girlfriend wanted to see me that night, and I didn't know how to tell her that I wanted to be alone. So I told her the truth about how I kind of wanted some time alone that night, and it wasn't taken, very friendly. And then that just kind of like triggered into other things, and then that made me stop for a second, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, this is not us. We usually are like very, like, we're just very happy and like jokey and like just goofing around. And then I realized like I'm being attacked right now. And that same moment, I held her hands. She was really mad at me. I held her hands and I was like, please pray with me. We're being attacked right now. And so I did a prayer, and literally like 5 minutes later, like we kind of went back to normal. And then we looked back at that moment, like we were both tripping. Like, what was that? It just came and went. And then once you're outside of the attack, you realize like, what was that? So that's kind of what that is to me.
That's and that I like the way you describe it, because it is subtle, and it does affect us. I remember watching this video. It's called "Interview with Lucifer," And in the interview, there's this guy with a lot of makeup, and he's impersonating the devil. And the interviewer he goes like, thank you for coming. Like, you usually, I know you're a very busy person, so thank you for giving us the time to have an interview here. And then one of his answers was like, this person speaking as Lucifer, he's like, I usually like to fly under the radar, but considering that, basically he says, I don't have to really hide that much anymore, so I figure, what the hell, literally.
Right.
So he says, the way he works is usually he brings up the same issues with every generation, and it's usually the same. He appeals to our desires, to the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and also your inner desires. So I feel like spiritual warfare, in a way that it works, is it attacks us in ways that feel very normal and natural to us, such anger or entitlement, like you were saying. Kind of like, I've been.
It's almost like an ego boost.
Exactly. It's like, I deserve this. If I don't follow this selfish desire that I have right now,
this impulse.
This impulse, I'm going to feel like I am letting myself down, or I'm putting myself aside,
or I'm letting people control me.
Exactly. When you are crucifying the flesh, it's going to fight back.
Yeah.
Because I heard this saying that the flesh is going to fight you back, because the flesh is not going where you're going. The flesh doesn't care. The flesh is living right here, right now. So it doesn't care. It doesn't want to go with you, because it knows that it won't. It would come with you into paradise. So it's going to try to bring you down.
Yeah.
And that's how spiritual attacks work. And I heard also something about how to define thoughts from the enemy and thoughts from God. The thoughts from the enemy are always going to be, what does the enemy want to do?
Selfish.
Steal, kill, and destroy. Steal, kill, and destroy. Anything that is those thoughts, anything that does that to you, any thoughts that do that to you, it is potentially, I'm not saying that every thought is that way, because sometimes our own ego does that. I'm not saying that every time is demons attacking you. But when it's persistent and when it's about a specific issue, I think about that is most likely, but like I said, not every single time, spiritual warfare. Like thoughts about probably your self-worth, or nobody likes you, or am I doing enough? Things to bring you and beat you down that hinder your confidence and your ability to grow.
Or sometimes like feeling like you're not appreciated.
Yes.
And
it makes you kind of want to retaliate. It's like,
and when it
I don't
feels
get
like
appreciated.
Yeah, when you become entitled to things, like kind of the opposite of gratitude in a way. You tell yourself, well, to me this is like a attack thought. Well, you work a lot all the time, and they never praise you for it. Nobody ever tells you, hey, you're a hard worker. They don't ever tell you that. So what do you even bother to work that hard? So that thought right there is a triggering thought. You could totally be like, you know what? You're right. They never appreciate anything I do. And I just worked all day today, and nobody even gave me a pat on the back. They're just expecting things from me. They just want me around because I can provide things. And then that thought alone can turn into like, you know what? I'm going to have a beer. Then you have one beer and you're like, maybe I should have another one. Then you had 2 beers. Then those 2 beers turn into 3. Now the devil's rubbing his hands together. Now he's like, okay, I definitely got him.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I wasn't able to pinpoint where I was being attacked. Because it felt natural to be like, they don't praise you, they don't respect you, don't care about them, do what you want to do right now.
And isn't it crazy how that works? It's like other people are not seeing my worth, so I'm going to start doing some self-destructive things.
Yep. Because once the devil gets you in a state of mind where you're indulging the attacks, or you're actually engaging the attacks, it's a very slippery slope, and it can go all the way to doing something completely crazy, and then wake up the next day, and then you're gonna look back like, what was that? What just happened to me?
Or it can just come like, I was hearing some testimonies too, that people that relatively lived a normal life, and they never really had any mental health issues or anything related to that, and then all of a sudden, like, this lady is like taking a baby and throwing it out the window.
Jeez.
Or all of a sudden this person just has the urge to kill somebody.
Yep.
Or that is straight up steal, kill, and destroy.
Yep.
That's what the devil wants to do. But that's just in a nutshell how spiritual attacks work. And again, we're not saying that it's not your mental health and all of that. Like, it might be related to, but we're not saying the mental health is not a real problem. Again, because a lot of people, when I try to explain it, somehow I get some resistance from people saying like, "Well, you can't just say that everything is demons." And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we must be aware of this kind of thing.
It all starts with a thought. It starts with a thought that it's not in your best interest, because when it comes to thoughts from God, you have to go to those thoughts yourself. They don't just come to you. You have to actually be open to listen to what God is telling you. This is why whenever I feel attacked like that, I give it to Jesus. I give it to God.
Yep.
Because sometimes I don't know how to deal with my own thoughts. And I feel like the problem begins where people try to deal with every single one of their thoughts on their own. We're not equipped for that. And every time we get closer to God, the devil's like, this can't be happening right now. I'm going to attack him every chance I get. And I will get him.
I feel like in a way it's kind of like we are like, when we talk about the creator and going back to it, it's like you said, we are not designed to do this on our own. We need to go back to the designer.
Yep.
It's like we're laptops and we're on the internet every single day exposed to viruses.
Yep.
So when a virus comes in to our software, what do we want to do? We are equipped to try to be able to deal with it in the best way possible. But sometimes it is so powerful that you need the designer. You need someone to go back into the laptop and be like, this is how I want to program it to get rid of that virus or to get the virus out of there.
Who better than the person that created you to solve your problem? You're not going to find a mechanic that's better than that. The one person the one entity that created the universe, right? Who better than that to work on your negative thoughts? And yeah, negative thoughts can obviously be for mental health stuff. At the same time, when we don't have God in the picture, we are 110% vulnerable. What about you, Anthony?
One thing I've learned a little bit on my own too is when it comes to identifying these thoughts, whether this is you speaking or the devil speaking or God speaking, listen to yourself on how you are saying it to other people or how you are thinking about it. Like you said at work last week, right? You said, they don't appreciate me, or they haven't been telling me I'm doing a good job. The first word you're saying, they.
Right.
Who is they?
Mm-hmm.
They is everybody else.
Yep.
It's all, 8 billion other people on the planet? That's who you think they is, or they are. I don't know.
7 billion?
7 billion, 8, I don't know.
Somebody outside of yourself.
It's almost like you think you're perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say somebody doesn't appreciate you, you think you have no room for improvement there. You think you're at your peak. When you say they without identifying somebody specific, that is not you speaking, and that is not God speaking. Because since these thoughts are fake, because they are what the devil wants us to say and what he wants us to think, he will give us something that is so simple that we make sense of it without double thinking it. When you have that thought of they don't appreciate me,
and that's what we're able to roll with it.
Exactly.
With that thought, because it makes complete sense in our brain, in our earthly brain.
Exactly. It's so simple that it's natural for us to consider that like just our own thought.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yep.
it's very rare that when you complain that you are in the right.
Right.
If you complain about something, chances are that's just you.
Think about people that just work third shift, right? And then they go to the bar to drink. Like,
That used to be like that.
right. I'm talking
Yeah.
about third shift. They get out of
Yeah.
work at like 6 a.m., right?
Yep.
And they just work from like 6 p.m.
To 6 a.m.
to 6 a.m. in the morning. So they get out of work and they go to the bar to have drinks. And then what do to each other? They complain
work.
about everything they hate about their life. And they're having a good time at the same time.
Mhm.
That is a prime form right there.
Indulging in the pleasures of the flesh and the destruction of some and destructive behaviors. It's like that song. It's everything that kills me makes me feel alive.
Yep. That's exactly it.
Because we don't understand how destructive that is. That the binge drinking, the murdering of people's character,
Yep.
the spreading of poison, and
The complaining, which is the opposite of gratitude right there.
and we take pride on those kinds
Yep.
of things. It's like,
Like-
oh, this is who I am.
It's like, you hate your boss? Oh, I hate my boss too. Let's take a
Yeah.
shot. Yeah. Screw our boss, man. Yeah.
I
we're
remember
getting-
at one point I was working at a factory. We got done with one of those shifts, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And we're at the bar at 6:30 a.m.
Yep.
getting wasted. I'm wasted by 8 a.m. And we're taking shots to this coworker that we all hate. We're taking shots like to him getting fired,
Yeah, that's
and just
that's like the opposite of church right there. That's worshiping the enemy.
Yeah.
In a way,
without even
there's-
knowing it.
because you're
Destruction.
Yep.
If there's one thing that people are horrible at naturally, it's thinking about how other people feel about the same situation.
Right.
Because you only care about what you think about, because what other people think about, it doesn't matter to you.
Yep.
So instead of, assisting or helping these people, we naturally just complain about them or try to break them down more to the point to where they give up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very obviously not right. But it is also very obviously the natural thing to do, because that's what we think we know. And in terms of complaining itself, never misinterpret complaining for venting.
Right.
If you
Expressing.
if you have a lot on your plate or a lot on your mind, you should vent to God. Because when you vent, you are overwhelmed, and you probably 95% of the time you don't know what to do.
Mhm.
Go to God.
Or vent to other believers too.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And it's I think that's one of the best ways to do it, because it is not an excuse to have like a gossip session, to be like, oh, do you see what they're doing? And
Right.
like, but you say like just to analyze yourself, and this is what I started doing to Katie when I felt like complaining about something or someone. I would tell Katie, okay, this is how I'm feeling, and these are my thoughts about it. After, because I don't really like to talk in the moment about my emotions, because I don't want to say things that I will regret.
And Katie is your wife.
Yes. Yeah, Katie's my wife. And so I sit with them for a while, and Katie knows when I'm going through something like this, because she sees that I'm quiet, and she just gives me my space because she knows me. But then after a while it comes like, hey, thank you for putting up with me, for my silence, or if I being short, that I don't mean it towards you, but this is how I'm feeling about a situation or a person or whatever. So I ask her, this is how I feel, and this is how I feel like I should react to it, or maybe I shouldn't react. Give me some feedback. Am I in the right here? Am I in the wrong? And she does a pretty good job of putting things into perspective. Because I ask her, she's a really kind person, and I feel like in the areas where I'm extremely assertive and kind of just like get things done, she's more calm, and in the things that she needs help with being assertive, like we balance each other out really well in that area, and that's taking time because I remember at some point in our relationship, I remember just sitting in the living room. Excuse me, and just thinking. I think we were together for 7 years at that point, 6 or 7 years. And I remember sitting in the living room watching TV, and just having this pit in my stomach. I'm like, why am I feeling so anxious right now? I'm just watching TV, doing nothing, and I'm just burning with anxiety. What's going on? And I tell Kate, it's like, I feel I'm really off right now. Can we just do something like go for a drive or something? So we go for a drive. And I think it's our first year living together and realizing that we are so different. And I'm feeling kind of bummed out because what does society sell to you? Oh, you have to find your soulmate. Like, once you find your soulmate, everything is dandy. Like, there's going to be no friction. Everything is going to be fine. You guys are going to be all into the same things. But that could not be any further from the truth. And I think that deters a lot of young people from finding true companionship and a faithful person that will stick with you. And then I remember having this conversation and I told her, like, I want to be completely honest with you. I feel I am struggling right now because I feel like we have nothing in common. And at the time, I didn't have a relationship with Jesus, so I was thinking,
trying to solve everything by yourself.
Yes, and thinking very selfish thoughts. And then I told her, yeah, like, do you see, like, what are we gonna do? Because I was honestly like hurting. And then she said to me, like, I think it's good that we don't have the same interests. And I don't remember exactly how the rest of the conversation went, but I remember feeling better. And actually, I didn't think of it at the time, but now looking back, I think it's a great thing to know and realize that if you are only thinking of yourself and it's like, and saying that if people are not doing what you think they should be doing, or if you have disagreements, that things are not going to work out, because nobody is the same person, and we all have different skills, we all have different talents, we're all part of the body of Christ. We talked about this in previous episodes. We all fulfill different roles, and being aware and being Christ-like in the way that you serve first, then you are fulfilled, instead of having the mentality of if I am served, then I'm gonna be fulfilled. It is not that way. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, because if you think about it, most people, when they look for a relationship, they always think of like, what can this person do for me? Are they right for me? Do they like the same things I like?
Mm-hmm.
And it's completely backwards. I mean, I've been there. I've been on that boat before. And obviously those relationships didn't work because I was being selfish the entire time. Like, oh, they act like this and I don't like that. They do this and I don't like that. As opposed to like, what can I provide for my significant other? How can I help them, improve? And I feel like the entire world is like that. Like, what can this job do for me?
Mm-hmm.
What can this person, help me with? Like, it's give me
Yep.
everywhere, as opposed to what can I do for others? How can I help somebody smile? How can I help somebody have a better, positive perspective on things?
And it's making people think that that's empowerment.
Right.
And you're like, oh, you need to have your list of things that you can check off when you're meeting somebody. Like, no, you're going to end up so dissatisfied, so alone, and so empty if you just keep looking for self-fulfillment, because you keep throwing things in that God-shaped hole that don't fit, and those things keep withering away, because the things of this world are going to decay, they're going to come to pass, they're going to rot, but the things born from the Spirit will prevail forever.
Also, when you follow that lifestyle and that type of mentality, and it gets to the point where you become prideful whenever you become angry or irritated.
The Pharisees.
Yeah.
Yeah. How, Jesus confronted them every time, and just I feel like confronting a Pharisee was just, they're so full of principalities, and
Principles.
so full of themselves and in their quote unquote wisdom and their quote unquote knowledge, that they forgot humanity. When Jesus, when they come in and they tell Jesus, why are you hanging out with these prostitutes and tax collectors, and these people are low, these people don't deserve to be treated with kindness, essentially saying, why are you wasting your time with the sinners? He says, what does he say? He say, it is not the healthy that need a hospital, but the sick.
Right.
And Jesus was so countercultural with his love and with his perspective of things. The kindness, the loving, the acceptance, that was just, people could not wrap their minds around it. And I feel like there's a lot of people and a lot of church leaders, not just in Christianity, but in many other religions, that have become hardened. And I think that's another example of a spiritual attack, because they become blinded by this sense of superiority, sense of greatness, better pronunciation there, this sense of being more important, just because you know the texts, just because you know the laws, just because you know the scriptures.
Yeah.
Then it appeals to human ego, to the self-worth. So they start feeling, Anthony, you were saying you feel worthless. They start feeling way too worthy of others. And it's kind of funny how that leads to both things. When you're feeling worthless, you say, well, screw all these people, they don't value me. And same when you're feeling so worthy, you're like, I'm so worthy, screw these people. Isn't that funny?
And the devil's an expert at that.
Yeah, and the best part is connecting that bridge between those two is so easy. You can literally just out of nowhere, just have that thought when you feel worthless, and then you think you wake up a little bit, and you're like, well, now wait a minute, what if I'm like overqualified for the position I'm in right now?
Mm-hmm.
That's where the problems really start to settle in. It is very important to recognize when you are, I guess, what's the word, like just going on and on, right?
Redundant?
Yeah.
When you're
like when you find yourself not finding it easy to stop complaining, that's when you need to recognize,
going down a rabbit hole.
You need to acknowledge that you are not acknowledging what's really important in that situation. I've been learning a lot about that. I would say even the last couple months, last 2-3 months, where I had this habit of complaining about a certain place or a certain person, even if I haven't seen that person or I haven't seen that place in years.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I hear it being brought up, I feel like, oh well, I gotta tell this person how that person is or how that place really is.
Right.
Instead of just keeping that thought to myself. When you find yourself doing that, it's not healthy. It's not right.
But and isn't it like kind of demoralizing when you just like get a job and then you find somebody who's doing the exact same thing that you're saying, and somebody who starts complaining like, oh, well, people are like this, people are like that, our job sucks, and people that have become kind of jaded because I think they go through the same rabbit hole that you're describing right there.
Now, also too, when I talk about somebody doing these things, or like you said, when you meet somebody that does these things, when I talk about these actions from certain people, including myself, I am not degrading those people because it is a very natural way of thinking.
Yeah, of course.
but that's also why we make this podcast,
Yep.
and to help, because
And we're not venting. We're not trying to diminish anybody. We're talking about being real people, human beings, because we go through that. We've been that person.
Yep.
And sometimes we still are that people. The fact that we're talking to you about Christ and the Word of God is because we realize how broken we are. And we
And we
realize
continue to be.
and we realize how we continue to be, and how it will never stop as long as we're in this body. And God still doesn't tell us, oh, you're not worthy. Even though we keep messing up, he's like, okay, get back up and talk to people about me. I know.
That's the whole reason why we started this podcast, is to spread the word of God out there, because the closer we get to God, the more we become aware of how tough it is to be a human.
Yep.
And the more we realize that we cannot do this by ourselves. We cannot do this with just our own logic. Because our logic is flawed. Because our logic can be used by God the same way it can be used by the devil. Except one of those energies wants you to prevail.
Yeah.
And find inner peace. Something that can help you cope with even the toughest things in life. As opposed to the devil, he just wants you to be miserable. Even if it feels like he wants you to be happy, Queen.
Yeah.
Like, you just do you, okay? Don't listen to others.
Yes, girl.
I mean, it's... Another thing, too, about spiritual attacks, I am trying to provide a way for people to be able to cope with the toughest situations of life and not break down. And I've gone through a lot of things, like, the law of attraction, astrology, stones and gems, and like I've looked into all of that,
Manifestation.
and all of that
tarot
stuff. I mean,
cards.
a lot of it are tools that are helpful. But if you don't eventually find a way to get closer to your creator, the one energy that created everything, the one creator that created you, that he loved you so much, he sacrificed his own son just for you to be able to, like, complain every day.
Right.
Like, until you don't make a connection with that God-sized hole, it's gonna be a black hole, and whatever you're throwing in, it's gonna suck right up. What's next?
Yep.
What else can I throw in there? Astrology seems interesting. Oh, maybe I should start drinking teas. Maybe I should look into tarot cards.
And the more you feed it, the bigger it gets too. The easier it becomes to throw more into it.
Yep.
You become spiraling inwards.
It's like this guy in this confession said, like, I wanted to read to tie into that. There's this thing, this word from this passage from Ephesians 6, verse 12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. It is a spiritual. It's not just flesh. It's spiritual. And our flesh is part of that. Our flesh is how we get. Our flesh is part of this world, and in this world is a giant battle. You cannot serve two kings. You either serve the King of Kings, God Jesus Christ, or you serve the devil. There's no in between. You have to make a choice. And I like to think of this guy who he was a drug addict, and then he gave a confession. What's it called? A testimony on the YouTube, and he was saying, like, with every single drug that he tried, he felt like some of these drugs offer enlightenment, but then again, you dip your toes into the spiritual realm right there, and you're gonna feel like something is revealed to you. But like he said, every time that something got revealed to him, he would become aware of those things, but he would have no power to change that.
Right.
Or his behaviors or any shortcomings that he was struggling with. And the enemy was giving him some truth but with enough lives, with enough lies in there mixed in to keep you bound. So it would, tantalize you with truth and enlightenment and freedom, but at the same time making your shackles even heavier by the fact that, oh, I know these truths about me, but I cannot do anything to break free. And he said, like, every time he had a spiritual experience with drugs, he felt dirty. He felt like something was wrong.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing. Like, I used to smoke weed for a long time. And I know that, like, oh, like, when my time smoking weed, I'm like, oh, I became so wise and all these things. But then, sometimes while doing it, or sometimes like after coming down, like then the paranoia sets in, and you're like, why am I feeling so uneasy? Like every time I smoke weed I feel great, but then like I'm afraid of things. I'm looking over my shoulder, like this noises are scaring me. Like, why is that? And Jesus Christ is the opposite. Every interaction and every blessing that Jesus gives to you, it's clean. There's no shame, there's no fear, there's no hangover. There's no spiritual hangover from getting truth from Jesus Christ. It's clean and it's freeing. And the more you know that, because I wanted to talk about Peter. When you see who Christ is and how great he is, and great just doesn't even begin to describe who Christ is. How holy he is. What did Peter say? He drops on his knees and it says, Master, depart from me, for I'm a sinner.
Yep.
He was aware of who Jesus is, and then he became aware of his own sin, self, and he said, depart from me, Master. I'm a sinner. I'm filthy. You want nothing to do with me. What did Jesus say? Like, get up, you're now a fisher of men. You're not a fisher of fish anymore. You are a fisher of men. And Peter even denied him 3 times. And he's still an apostle.
So I do want to end this episode by saying that whenever you feel like you have overwhelming thoughts and you feel like there's really nothing you can do, but you feel like you should do something about it, sometimes the best answer is do nothing. And I know that's tough to hear, because we as people, we as humans, we see something wrong, we want to fix it. But sometimes the biggest lesson is in not being able to do anything about it. And every time you seek out God, every time you legitimately from your heart want to get in touch with him, he's always going to be listening. He may not reply to you the same day you ask him, but he will answer your call when it needs to be answered.
He is not slow to fulfill his promises.
And there is not a single situation or thought you could have that he cannot manage. It's all about putting your faith in him and realizing that you did not create yourself. Somebody else is responsible for that.
Yes.
And if you let God, if you seek him out, I guarantee you, he's going to answer and he's going to find you. Because he's always been there, even when you didn't even realize it. If you have air in your lungs and you're breathing right now, he knows that you're there. Mm-hmm. And he loves you and he wants to listen to what you have to say. But you have to seek him out yourself.
Jesus said, whoever has ears to hear, let them hear. That if you put your trust in Jesus Christ, who took all of our sins to the cross, you will be free. I'm not telling you that you're going to stop struggling with sin. I'm not going to tell you that life is going to be a breeze, but it's going to be worth it. And following Christ is going to cost you. It's going to cost you relationships. It's probably going to cost you some jobs. It's going to cost you pain, tears, but it's worth it. Nothing that you could possibly get in this world could compare to the riches that he's got stored for you in heaven.
Because most of the things we have here on earth we actually don't need. And
We
when
think we do.
and when we develop a relationship with Jesus, you feel like you're being stripped down, and you might react to it like, wait, like, why is this happening? And it's like, because he's taking away the dead weight that you've been carrying for so long.
It's like
Do not let it test your faith.
And the most important thing is to remember that you are not alone in this battle between good versus evil.
No.
There is quite literally everybody else on
Yep.
this planet that is breathing air like you are. It's going through the same thing.
Yep.
Even if it feels like you're the only one, you're not.
You never are.
You're not that special.
And and even, for you out there, if you're struggling with anxiety, if you're struggling with depression, if you anywhere or any area of your life that you feel you're struggling and then you feel like you cannot carry the weight on your own, you don't have to. Give it to Jesus Christ. Because in Luke 12, verse 22, he said, "Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, or what you will wear." And it sounds counterintuitive if somebody is worrying about their finances or their health or the health of somebody else, a loved one, a relationship. It's like if you're freaking out and then you tell somebody, well, don't worry, man. People are going to be like, don't you care about me? Like, just don't worry. But I heard this, I saw this video today, and it was saying, like, if you tell somebody not to worry, it's because you know something that they don't.
Right.
And think about Jesus saying that. He says, do not worry about your life.
It does sound counterproductive in a way. It reminds me of the it was a meme that I saw. It's like an old lady is like, "Doctor, it hurts when I do this." And the doctor's like, "Well, don't do that."
And I think when it says, Jesus telling you, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life. Think about the things that he knows that we don't know. Think about the reason why he's telling you that.
Like, what could possibly be so important that he tells us not to worry about that because we don't know it? What does he know that we don't? When you start to think about how important can that fact be, just know it's important, because
Think about this. The God is telling you, don't worry.
Yeah.
Think about the creator of the entire universe telling you, don't worry. And
And then we have the audacity to be like,
but
"Excuse me."
I think if God can create an entire universe, I think he knows a thing or two about your life.
He just might. He just might.
he just might. All right.
With his might.
Thank you, everybody, for listening today. We are the Bread Slice. My name is Alex.
I am Eddie, your co-host, and I hope you enjoy this episode.
And I am Anthony, your other co-host, and I agree with Eddie.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to us. Stay rooted. Stay blessed. Remember that God is on your side. And see you next time.